All right. I am here. Welcome to a random, not so random, but welcome to a Tuesday night live stream. That's right. Normally we're Wednesday, but I'm going away tomorrow, and so I won't be able to do the live stream tomorrow. So today we're going to be taking a look at Revelation chapter 4, verse 8, and I have talked a lot about this. Well, maybe not a lot. I haven't really talked. I've just kind of mentioned it here and there. But it's a very interesting textual variant. And the question we have is how many holies should be in Revelation chapter 4, verse 8? So the question is it 3 or is it 9? Is it 3 shall be the number thou shalt count to, and the counting of the number shall be 3? Thou shalt not count to 4, neither count thou 2, but 9 is right out? We'll see. So welcome everybody in the comments. We've got a couple in here. Mr. Gnomed. Hope things are going well. Brother Maynard, I'm glad you are here. Good to see you. I know we've been chatting it up, hamming it up over on June Greek's podcast. So good to see you here, Brother Maynard. Remove the supports. Yes, I thought that movie was hilarious. So now that Brother Maynard is here, I've got all the reason in the world I need to run those Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail one-liners. So here we go. All right, so let's do this. First of all, I just want to make sure the audio is okay. I'm in the laundry room, and we have to have laundry done for tomorrow, so it's rolling right now. If you can hear it, then that's not good. But if you can't hear it, then that's good for me. And good for you. All right. So let's flip over to our screen here. I want to take a look at the passage here. So this is Revelation chapter 4, verse 8. And just for the sake of reading it, this is from the Majority Standard Bible. And just so everybody is aware, John Isett today, he's the proprietor of Bible Hub. And they have apparently released this now as the stable version of the Majority Standard Bible. And it looks like, based on a post he made, that they are actually going to be producing this in print. So that is exciting. This will be like a legitimate, like majority, not that the other ones aren't legitimate, but this is like, more than one person has worked on it. So the Majority Standard Bible is going to be going to print. So that I'm excited. So here it is. And in Revelation 4:8, it reads, "And each of the 4 living creatures had 6 wings and was covered with eyes all around and within. Day and night they never stopped saying, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come." Now, excuse me. That's pretty much the reading that you're going to see absolutely like everywhere. In fact, I think it's pretty with a few people, with a very small minority of people thinking that this one is not the right reading, because there are a number of manuscripts, in fact, a large number of manuscripts which have holy, 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 holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. So, do we have holy there 3 times? Or do we have it there 9 times? And so we're going to take a quick look at that this evening. So I see you there, Kevin Hawthorne. Good to see you from Lakeland, Florida. We have Brother Maynard asking, "Hey, Bush Up." Yeah, he calls me Bush Up Green. Don't ask. So I just found my first Bible, my KJV World 900 CBG. What do you know about the 900 CBG? I don't know anything about it at all. The 900 CBG. Do you know what CBG stands for? I don't know. I've never seen that one. That's interesting. All right. So Brother Maynard also asked me earlier, how long did it take you to learn these languages? By these languages, using the plural there, I'm assuming he means English and Greek. It took me probably the first 6 years of my life to learn English well. And then it took me another 6 years to get where I am now with Greek. But of course, I'm always learning. So I wouldn't say I know Greek. It's not like I can just pick it up and read it and I'm like totally fluent. No, fluency, it takes a ton of work. I'm not fluent. In some places I can read rather good, but then you get books like Hebrews and Luke and whatever else. Some of these books are difficult. John is easy. 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, easy. Galatians, simple. Mark, simple. Yeah. So yeah, some things you can read easy. Sometimes some things I need a lot of tools and help with. But nonetheless, GA 2200 has holy 13 times. I know, and we're going to look at GA 2200 because that's just wild to me. I just wonder, like, what are these scribes thinking when they're writing down all these holies? Like maybe the one in 2200 had a manuscript in front of him which had 9, and he kept losing his place, and so he'd start over every time. Maybe he just needed a little more coffee, or maybe he needed a lot less coffee. I don't know. But nonetheless. So we're going to come back here. So this I have in the Majority Standard Bible. I think what I'm going to do here is, even though everyone is generally speaking good with 3 holies here, I really think there should be a footnote here, because it's a significant split, especially amongst the Byzantine manuscripts, whether there should be 3 or 9. Now, I think there probably should be 3, and we'll go over some reasons for that. I have a couple of commentaries on this as well. We'll take a look at. So the only English translation that I've seen so far, and I could be wrong, I didn't take a look at a whole lot of them, but is the New King James Version here, which has a footnote. And in the footnote, we have Revelation 4:8. The M text, which stands for the majority, has holy 9 times. And as far as I understand, the actual majority is 9 times holy, but it's a very, 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 very narrow majority. So when we get to these super, super narrow majorities, right, we have to rely on internal criteria because numbers alone just are not good enough in this situation to decide one way or the other. So that's what's happening there. So what we'll do is this. I meant to pull up the INTF here. Let me do that real quick here. So I want to pull up the ECM entry on this. So for those of you who don't know, the ECM is the Edito Critica Maior, and it's basically like the biggest collation project ever. So they take all the Greek manuscripts that they can get their hands on. Now, of course, it's not all of them, right? Because that would be absolutely lifetimes of work. But there are literally hundreds of manuscripts which are collated here to come up with the results. Now, the thing about the Book of Revelation is the Book of Revelation is a very interesting textual critical conundrum, right? Because it's one of those scenarios in which we have pretty much all of the manuscripts collated for the Book of Revelation. That was done by Hoskier, Herman C. Hoskier, in the early 1900s. And so he's done all the work, and he's grouped everything together and all of that stuff. And so you can actually go to his textual commentary on Revelation, and you can see all the work that he's done. It's a huge 2-volume set, and I think it's more than 1,000 pages. And he's got all the results in there. But yeah, so when we're looking at the Book of Revelation, we're actually looking at a complete collation, essentially. Everything has been looked at. I mean, there might be a few stragglers here and there, or some things that have been found since then, but for the most part, we have a pretty full apparatus for the Book of Revelation, which is odd. I mean, we have that for Jude because it's a small book and someone did that. But we don't have many others that are like that. So we have an absolute wealth of information in regards to Revelation. Now, what's interesting, though, is it's also the biggest textual challenge, and it has the most textual variance amongst all the other books of the New Testament. So when we're looking at Revelation, I think it's because of how the Book of Revelation starts. Like if we go back to chapter 1, and you go down, let me see if I can find it. Right here. John, to the 7 churches which are in the province of Asia, grace to you, grace and peace to you. Right? This is to the 7 churches. The 7 churches which are in Asia. Where is this? And then Jesus says to him, right in the vision, therefore, write down the things you have seen, the things that are, and the things that will happen. This is the mystery of the 7 stars, and you go on, so on and so forth. And so you can see that this was to be written out and then sent to 7 churches. And I think the reason why we have this issue in Revelation is because this either was copied 7 times from John and then sent it out to each place, or it was copied once by John, sent out to the first church. They copied it and sent off a copy, and so right off the start, I think when it comes to the copying process of Revelation, you've got 7 copies rolling around. And I think excuse me, that could be why Revelation is one of the more difficult books, textually speaking. So, excuse me, with that aside out of the way, I want to come back over to the ECM. I don't know if I can zoom this in. We'll see what happens. If we go to Revelation chapter 4, we should probably go down to 8. So this will give you an idea of the kinds of readings. Yeah, let's see. There we go. This will give you an idea of the kinds of readings we have in chapter 8 for this reading. There's a couple other interesting textual variants here, like this one here. Kiklothen Keeston. We won't be too worried about that right now because we're not looking at that one. But we are looking at the Holies one. Hegia. There it is. Hegios. So this is our first variant, and we've got a list of manuscripts that support that. That's a pretty big list. That is a pretty big list. And then we have one manuscript where Hagios is only written twice in 2919. Hagios is written 6 times in 141, 17, 19. 6 is right out. Then we have another one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. We're going to take a look at this one. This is Aleph Sinaiticus, which has a corrector that corrects it to 8. It's the original one, and then someone came in and corrected it afterwards. And we'll take a look at that because it's really interesting. And then we have 9 times here. And that is, I just make sure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. And there's actually a lot more manuscripts than what they've listed here. But again, it's approximately equal between the number of Byzantine manuscripts that read 9 Holies or 3 Holies. And then you have the definite outlier here, GA 2200, which has Hagios 13 times. And again, we're going to take a look at that. Why? Just because it's fun. What is the scribe doing if he's writing holy down 13 times when it should only be there 3? So, excuse me. All right, so let's come back over to the comments. We got a couple things going on here. All right. So Get Gnome says, I did find out that some lectionaries preserve verses of Revelation. Yes. Yeah, not many though. From what I understand, the lectionaries are more concerned with the Gospels and then the Apostolos, as it's called, which contains Acts and the epistles. So yeah, if there are Revelation readings preserved in the lectionary, it's not going to be very many. Brother Maynard, just to let you know, I was using this KJV and your earlier video on the longing of Mark. Instead of Jesus healing the people because power came from him, this Bible says virtue came from him. Yeah, I remember the KJV specifically saying virtue has come from him. Because I remember reading that and thinking, like, that's a really weird way of saying it. It tells you how old this Bible is, yeah. All right. Okay, let's come back here. Now... So what we'll do is I'll share some of the commentary that I've seen on this passage. So for those not aware, as far as I know, in printed editions of the Greek New Testament, I believe this only appears in 2. The first one is the Hodges Farstad majority text, hence the name majority, because of slight majority. I think it wins out, although it's not a little more nuanced than that, but I think generally speaking, that's it. And then the Family 35 text from Wilbur Pickering, because the 9 Holies is apparently specifically a Family 35 reading. So he went in that direction with Family 35. Now, let me pull up the commentary notes here really quickly. Where did I put those? Oh, I hit the wrong button. That's okay. We're going to have to wait a second while it loads. See, what happens is sometimes I click on the little logos button in the bottom, and then it just takes up all the resources of my computer. And yeah, I'll unpin that. There we go. I don't have to worry about that anymore. What is going on here? Hang on. Brother Maynard says, why would he write arg, arg, arg when he could just said arg 13 times? Nice. Okay, I'm going to close you. There we go. All right. I'll close you. All right, here we go. That took a little while. Okay, so I'm going to come back here. And so of the commentaries on this, so coming back to the Family 35 text, now Wilbur Pickering doesn't always add a commentary in his apparatus, but occasionally he does. And this is one example. In fact, the example previous to this as well, the textual variant before this in verse 7. But in verse 8, he does provide a commentary. And the commentary he provides there, he says this. He says, surely it is more likely that 9 would be changed to 3 than vice versa. In fact, try reading holy 9 times in a row out loud. It starts to get uncomfortable. Since in the context the living ones are repeating themselves endlessly, the 9 is both appropriate and effective. 3 holies for each member of the Trinity. Okay, so you got to understand here that what's happening is Dr. Pickering is saying, okay. The best way to explain this textual variant is to say that it originally did have 9, and when people were reading out hagios, 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 they were getting tired of saying it 9 times, and it just sounded really awkward. So they just cut it down to 3. And Dr. Pickering gives a theological reasoning here, and he says that the 3 holies are for each member of the Trinity. Now. I don't know if I necessarily agree here, and I'll share in a moment here. But what's interesting about this textual variant is there seems to be an appeal, right, to something that makes God more holy. So if it's more pious, it automatically wins. The pious expansion wins out here because it's more holy, and it paints God in a much better light. And it's an interesting argument, especially when you consider the Textus Receptus position, or even some of the King James Version positions surrounding the comma. So 1 John 5, 7, and 8, specifically 7, right? And how it's definitely the textual issue there. You know, there are 3 that bear record in heaven: the Father, the Father, the Word, and the Spirit. The Father, the Word, and the Holy Spirit. These 3 are one. When you read that, of course, it sounds like a Trinitarian doctrine. It's very clear. It tells you what it's talking about. And so a lot of times what will happen is people will come around the table and say, we need to keep it in there because it's such a clear reference to the doctrine of the Trinity. And so here what they're saying essentially is that it provides good doctrine, therefore it was originally penned by the original author. If you use that same sort of mentality here, you would have to apply that to Revelation chapter 4, verse 8, because 9 holies makes God out to be much more holier than 3 holies. So if you're going to use this idea that, the one that is more pious is to be original, well, then you've got an issue here. And of course, the Textus Receptus itself doesn't contain the 9 holies. It contains the 3 and the 3 original, which obviously I think is right. The Byzantine text form, the Byzantine priority text or Byzantine text form 20, the edition we're coming out, the 2025 edition, we'll only have 3 holies, but we'll have a footnote for the 9 holies, right? Because it's close. And so Dr. Pickering there, he's sort of a reference for someone who thinks it's original, it should be in the text. And of course, he appeals to the internal criteria. Why does he appeal to the internal criteria? Well, again, because this is so close as far as the number of manuscripts are concerned. We'll take a look at the counts in a moment. But yeah, you end up in a place where, as much as I don't like using internal criteria because of its subjective nature, you see that subjectivity here, right? We're stuck here. We don't have a choice. It's going to be internal criteria for this one. So Dr. Pickering is an example of someone who thinks it should be in there and appeals to the internal criteria for that as well. I that wouldn't entirely be fair because that's an F-35 reading, and he's convinced that F-35 is the way to go. But nonetheless, Adam Boyd, on the other hand, so he's done some work recently, very recently, with the Book of Revelation. He's currently working on publishing something if he hasn't already. And I asked him about this textual variant as well. And he gave me a little snippet from his PDF file of his own commentary, and I'll just read it for you here because he comes to a different conclusion. Same evidence, same ideas, same internal criteria, different conclusion. So Adam Boyd writes, he says, the external support for Hagios appearing 9 times is rather weak. Okay, and this is based on his collection of Revelation manuscripts into certain groupings. Okay. He says, if the 9-time occurrence of Hagios were original, it would be hard to imagine scribes intentionally omitting 6 of the occurrences, which could be perceived as diminishing the holiness of God. It is easier to imagine scribes expanding the text to magnify the holiness of God. So Adam Boyd, what he's saying is that it's more likely that a scribe is going to see 3 holies and be like, God is much more holier than 3 holies, so let's write it in 6 more times for a total of 9. Or maybe one scribe who had one too many coffees says, let's write it in 13 times. Let's do it 10 more times. We got 3 there. Let's put it in 10 more times. And so Adam is saying that that's more likely to happen. Because what's not likely to happen, according to Adam, is that if the original was indeed 9, he can't see a scribe taking any of those away because you would be lessening the holiness of God in the manuscript. And so that's Adam Boyd's position. So we have Adam and excuse me. So we have Adam and Dr. Pickering, who are on different wavelengths. There we go. So for me, I tend to agree with Adam simply because it just makes more sense. It's not likely that someone's going to add in something. And again, we're going to take a look at a couple manuscripts because there's a few of them where some changes have been made and a corrector scribe came and fixed up some stuff. But anyway, so I counted them out, and maybe it wasn't quite right. Maybe it wasn't the full majority. But Adam's work, he took some groupings, some very important groupings. I think these are the bigger groupings that Hoskier determined. So when Hoskier collated all of the manuscripts, he grouped them together based on those with similar readings. And there was a K group. There is the what Adam has coined as the O group, which is the Oecumenius commentary manuscripts from the 9th century. They get grouped together as sort of one representative. Then there's Andreas of Caesarea. He's from the 6th century. He produced a commentary. And so we have a number of manuscripts from him. And then there's another family of Revelation manuscripts called the Complutensian family. Obviously, because the readings in there tend to follow more closely along with what later became the printed edition of the Complutensian polyglot. So you can kind of get an idea of where the manuscripts of Revelation came for that book. So the groupings that he's got, he's actually counted them in each group depending on where its support runs for, whether it's for 3 times holy or 9 times holy. So we have 117 manuscripts among those 4 groupings that support 3 times. And then we have 86 manuscripts amongst those 4 groupings that support 9 times. So the majority appears to be in the 3 times, actually. So I was wrong at the start of the video. So let's come over to the comments real quick, and then we'll take a look at a couple manuscripts and see what they're saying. All right. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, we got to move this over just a little bit. There we go. All right. We are here. So Get Gnomed and Brother Maynard. GA has 13 times. All right, we were there. Why would he write Arc 9? Yeah, there you go. I can tell why. I'll tell you why holy is said 9 times if interested. All right, let's hear it. Excuse me. against Pickering, can't one argue that the scribes were trying to accentuate the praise of God? Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the issue with internal criteria, is because you could provide an argument for both. Which one is the scribe more or less likely to do, right? That becomes the real question. And you could say, well, the scribe, the original was, 333, and the scribe just wanted to accentuate that, and that could very well be. In fact, that's really what Adam is saying. Whereas Dr. Pickering, on the other hand, what he's saying in F35 is that the original is 9, and people just got annoyed by saying, the last 6 holies, and so they cut it down to 3 to make it easier to read. Brother Maynard says, using the third heaven model, holy in heaven 3 times, holy in cosmos 3 times, and holy on earth 3 times. Since I only count in 3s, no more, no less, I'm probably just making it up. That's funny. 5 is right out. Right out. Ross Lewichuk, how's it going? You say Isaiah 6:3 is helpful. I know the passage, but you know what? Let's pull it up here. Isaiah. Let's do it in the New King James. Isaiah 6:3. Holy. There's a really good song from Simon something. Sings about this passage. In the year that King Uzziah died. Here, let me flip over. All right. Yeah, so in the year King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting on the throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above it stood the seraphim. Each one had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he did fly. And one cried to another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. Absolutely. Yeah, and for anyone who knows anything about Revelation, the amount of times it goes back into the Old Testament for a number of its readings is a lot. He uses passages like this one here, and this could very well be a reference to Isaiah. He uses a lot out of Zechariah, a little bit out of Daniel, right? Like, I think even Malachi is quoted in the book of Revelation. So a lot of Old Testament stuff, and chances are, if you find it in the like if it's a reference, it's internally for me this helps. It speaks to that, right? And this only strengthens the argument, in my opinion, that a holy should be in there 3 times and not 9. Yeah. So let's take a look at a couple manuscripts here. We've got, we'll look at that one after, because that one's so interesting. So Vaticanus, if you were looking at the thumbnail, this is the image right here. This is the image I took for the thumbnail and used that in order to, grab everybody's attention so they can see what's going on here. But in looking at this, you can see, starts right here. Hagios, 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 Hagios. Oh, that's a lot of Hagios. But they're writing it in an interesting little script with some interesting flourishes, right? Because here's the alpha and the yama and the iota and the sigma and yeah. So yeah, you can see, like, it's very interesting. Now you're probably, if you're an astute viewer, like Codex Vaticanus, isn't this an unsealed manuscript? And I would say normally you're right, but there were some issues with Codex Vaticanus, and so what happened is somewhere midway through the book of Hebrews, the manuscript got damaged, and so later on, sometime in the 15th century, someone came around and said, be awful nice to have the rest of Hebrews and Revelation in here. And so the commissioning of the final couple books of Vaticanus were completed in minuscule script and done and added to the manuscript. And this was done sometime in the 15th century. So this here is actually a lot later than the original manuscript of Vaticanus. So it's a strange one, but nonetheless, you can see that whoever copied this carried over the 9 holies, holy, holy. Hagios, 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 Hagios. And it's interesting, right? How even just saying it 9 times. I agree with Dr. Pickering. Saying it 9 times is kind of, it does become a little bit awkward, but it's an awkwardness that's worthwhile if it's original, right? So I can't see a scribe just being like, okay, 3 is enough. I can't see a scribe doing that. Yeah. All right. Let's, I mean, maybe it's homoioteliton, right? Maybe they mixed up the first two. Maybe they were on a line here and they skipped over a whole line of them and there was one on the third. And so they just kind of reasoned that, well, maybe there's only 3. Yeah. Jew and Greek, how's it going? Good to see you. They copied and pasted wrong. Maybe. That could just be it. Now, here's the thing though. When I copy and paste, I hit Control and then I tap C like a million times just to make sure that it gets in the clip. And then I hit Control V once. But maybe they did it backwards. Maybe they hit Control C once and then Control V. Maybe they tapped that a whole bunch of times. Make sure it gets pasted. But yeah, I always think it's funny when you consider the scribes, and if they were to, if they could just sit behind me and watch me do a Control Copy, Control V of the entire New Testament, right? There goes the whole scribal industry right there in 2 keystrokes. All right. Excuse me. All right. We'll take a look now at Codex Sinaiticus. Again, another 4th century manuscript. Now, unlike Vaticanus, where there was actually, Vaticanus being a 4th century manuscript, but, Revelation being replacement pages from the 15th century. So here's where it gets interesting. So here's Codex Sinaiticus. You can barely see it because it is, let me just zoom that in here. You can barely see that because it's so faded. I wonder if I could get raking light on there. That would probably mess everything up. So we'll just have to deal with it. Now, this is the unsealed script, right? So if you see it written in unsealed script, chances are you're looking at a manuscript that is written sometime before the 900s. And of course, Sinaiticus, somewhere around 350. That's the current date on it. I think a number of people are calling out to have it actually tested, kind of with the XFRCE stuff, to get an actual date on it. Maybe the ink that's used to do it. Excuse me. But nonetheless, we have our reading here. You can barely see it, but you've got Hagios. It almost looks like a pi instead of a gamma and a iota. But you got Hagios. And then you got Hagios squeezed into the margin right here. You can barely see that. And then you got Hagios, Kyrios, Theos. I can't quite see what that is. Theos, Pantocrator. Yeah, there it is. But the unique thing here is Codex Sinaiticus has it 8 times. Okay, so we have manuscripts that have it 3 times. That's the generally, that's a consensus 3. We have tons of manuscripts that have it 9, but then Codex Sinaiticus has it 8 times. It's like a scribe is copying it, and he misses one of the hagios. I mean, it makes sense, right? We're talking about a manuscript that has running text all along, right? And so you could see how someone might misjudge how many hagioses they've written down, right? And so you end up with a manuscript like this where somebody had written 8. Now, you have what's interesting, other manuscripts, when we took a look again at the ECM results here, you have some with 2, you have some with 6, you have some with 8. Manuscript 452 apparently has 8. I'd be curious to look at that. But it has 8. 1, 2, 3, and this is the one that has 9. Then we'll look at the 13 one here in a moment. But what's really interesting here, so coming back to Sinaiticus, is if you take a look, you can see little dots, excuse me, written on top of each of the hagioses in there. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if I can zoom in. Can I zoom in a little bit more? It's really, I'm sure it's almost impossible to see. Yeah, that's as far in as I'm going to go. But you can see the dots. So they didn't put the dots over the first 3 hagioses, but they did in the remainder of them, right up to Kyrios, right here. So you got a sigma, kappa with the nomina sacra line. Same thing with Theos. So that's the end of the hagioses. So the original scribe put 8, and then a corrector came in and put dots over top of the remaining 5 hagioses so that only 3 are there. So when somebody's coming up to Sinaiticus to read it, they know only to read the first 3 hagioses because whoever corrected it doesn't think that the remaining 5 is original. So interesting. But nothing is more interesting then our next manuscript we're going to look at. And we're going to go to the INTF manuscript workspace for this one because it's the only place I could get it. So let's come over here. We'll say we'll take a look at the comments. I see some of you are speaking in here, and then we'll go from there. All right, so Jew and Greek says they copied and pasted wrong. That indeed they did. Benjamin Main, how's it going? Hope things are well. You say the Greeks love ninefold repetition. This one made it into Western liturgies. Oh, this is interesting. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison. That's Lord have mercy. Kyrie eleison. Okay, that's interesting. I wonder if we have an actual liturgical manuscript that has it. Is there a manuscript reading for that? Or is that one of the, I forget what you call the special readings that are not biblical texts but kind of guide you through the lectionary? There's a name for that specific kind of text. I forget what it is. But is that what that is? Or is there an actual reference? Like, is there a passage that this is? Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison. So Christe eleison, so Lord have mercy. 1, 2, yeah, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so Get Gnome says, what if Sinaiticus is a witness for holy 9 times? The scribe just missed one. Yeah, and I think that's completely reasonable. And I think, yeah, so let me go back to Sinaiticus. Yeah. That would I would say that would probably be the case, that this would be a witness for the 9 times split. And again, the reason being is because we can explain 8 by saying they missed one. I mean, that's just clear as day. For all we know, it could have been a reading in a margin or something simple like that. With there being 8 there and then a number of manuscripts having 9 later on, it makes more sense to say that these 8 are probably a witness to 9, and it's just clearly a mistake. I think that's probably the most reasonable explanation, that our oldest complete manuscript of the New Testament is a reference to the 9 times holy, which is interesting. I think the only reason why, well, I shouldn't say the only reason why, you'd have to take a look at the list of stuff, but because there's a full collation available of Revelation, we can take a lot more into account than just simply Codex Sinaiticus. And you know my position, right? Oldest doesn't necessarily mean best. There could be a number of reasons why this is in there 9 times. But it seems, generally speaking, that the church was more in acceptance of the 3 times holy. And I think we can make a better case internally for having 3 rather than 9. But yeah, that's a good question. Jew and Greek. You're trolling me now. You're trolling me. Have you ever heard the Codex Sinaiticus referred to as the Sinai Bible? The only time I have ever heard of it referred to as the Sinai Bible was when I was watching Wes Huff destroy Billy Carson in that discussion. That's the only time I've ever heard it called the Sinai Bible. I've never heard it called anything other than that anywhere else in the literature. Never seen it. Never heard about it. I think Billy Carson just called it that because it sounds cool. And it does kind of have a cool ring to it, right? The Sinai Bible. It's the Sinai Bible. So I'm guessing that you're somewhat serious there to see if Billy Carson had some sort of justification for calling it the Sinai Bible. I don't think so. I've never come across that in all of my readings and all of that stuff. Never. So, but if I could just pull it off my shelf here and say this is Sinaiticus, I actually don't own one of those, so I do everything online. All right. Excuse me. Same here. Yes. All right. So we're gonna go to the INTF site for this. Because this is interesting. This is GA 2200, and you'll notice, there we go. So this is GA 2200, and this is from the INTF website. And This is not available anywhere else aside from INTF. Now, I have a login pass to be able to go see this. I don't think they're going to make a big stink about me showing this. I actually emailed them, and they said basically that as long as it's all within the INTF framework, and you can see that it's coming from their website and stuff like that, that this falls under some sort of fair use. So they weren't entirely certain about that. I doubt they're going to make a big deal about this. However, if they do give me a stink, I'll cut this out and not use this in future. But for now, for you guys who are here, this is GA 2200. I'm repeating myself here, but this is an 11th century manuscript. So this is actually one of the older of the Byzantine type manuscripts, and this was listed as a Byzantine type manuscript. And this is the one in which, let me see if I can shrink this down a little bit. This is the one in which hagios was listed 13 times. 13 times. 13 times. Okay, and so if you look, I would say just, pause it. If you want to see if you can find where they're listed, pause it and take a look and see if you can find it before I point it out to you. It's right there, right in the middle. But this is, of course, in the minuscule script, right? So it's a little more difficult to read. Hey, I can zoom right in. Awesome. I need to zoom out to be able to see it, though. Where'd it go? There it is. Yeah, so did I see lines in there? There's lines in there. Oh, interesting. Yeah, so being 11th century manuscripts written in minuscule, it's a little harder to read, right? Those of us who try to learn how to read manuscripts, this is like when you can read it from a minuscule manuscript, you're doing well. You're doing well. But you can see the list of the hagios. I'm reading backwards here because it actually goes over a few lines. And every time I click, it like moves in. It's really annoying. All right, so it starts here. Niktos Legontis by night saying, hagios. I'm going to have to shrink this. Yeah, I'm going to have to shrink this. I don't want to, but I got to. Where are we here? There it is. Legontis hagios. Kyrios. Okay, let's count them and see how many there are. Let's see if there really are 13. Someone probably double and triple checked here. But you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So there are 13. There are 13 hagioses there. And just so y'all know, okay, this is the only manuscript which has it written more than 9 times. Okay, so typically speaking, 9 is the limit. 9 is it. 13 is right out. 13 is right out. So this is the only manuscript with 13. Interesting to see that happen. I suspect, well, I don't know. There could be a few things. Could be a few reasons. We'll just muse on it for a second. So one, it could be that there were 3 originally, and then the scribe just wanted to put more, and so he just goes, let's put 10 more. Right? So you got 10 plus 3 is 13. Maybe he did that. The other thing that could have happened, right, is maybe he was copying from like a 3-column manuscript or a 2-column manuscript. And so, maybe there just happened to perfectly be 3 hagioses on each line for 3 lines. And maybe he like skipped past a line and went back and didn't see that he had already written the small hagios right here in the margin. And so he overcounted. Maybe he just didn't have enough coffee that morning. Maybe he just needed some more coffee. Or maybe he just had too much coffee and he wrote it out so many times. I don't know, but it's absolutely wild. 13 times, like, I don't know. I don't even know if we could claim that as an accident, to be honest. I mean, that would be a serious, interesting turn of events to have someone accidentally write it 13 times. I could see that if it was 9. Excuse me. I could see that if it was 9. Maybe he's adding an extra one per line without recognizing. I don't know. But if he was copying from a manuscript of 3 Holies, there's no way that he was accidentally writing it 10 times. Maybe this is an example of where the scribe just felt. Maybe he was just really impressed with God's holiness that day, right? Maybe he read R.C. Sproul's book, right? God's Holiness. Maybe he read that. And man, he was just Holy, 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 holy. Hagios, hagios, hagios. Hagios, hagios. I don't know. I don't know. But I don't know. Like, look how neatly that is written. This is a really neatly written manuscript. So we're essentially saying that the scribe who wrote this, he knew his job. He knew what he was doing. This is not a messy, junky, quick job that someone got a Timu version of a scribe to write this down. This is a bona fide scribe who's really good at his craft. So I don't see it. But what's interesting though, actually, I'm curious now, because they've got dots between the hagioses, but there are some places where they don't. Let me see. Hagios. Yeah, so he's got hagios with a dot, hagios with a dot, hagios with a dot, and then hagios with no dot. So if we collapse that becomes 12 hagioses. Then we got hagios, dot, hagios. There's another hagios with it. So if we collapse that, we got 11. Then we got hagios with a dot, hagios with a dot, hagios with a dot, and hagios. Yeah, I don't know. There's got to be some method. Maybe there's something going on there, but that is kind of funny that there's two places here where the raised dots are missing, which is it's essentially a comma in English. So you got hagios. Hey, and then 3 here. I don't know. I don't know. It's a very strange one. It's a very interesting one. I'm sure it could do a little bit more digging in to find out what's happening there. But nonetheless, this is why this one's such an interesting textual variant. I did a short a little while ago, like maybe a year ago, about this specific textual variant. And it's just cool. It's kind of cool to me to think. And I mean, as much as we say it's bad to add to this manuscript tradition, obviously it's bad to do that. But you can almost see, right? Excuse me. Let me flip the scene here. But you can almost see the like trepidation of the scribe who comes up to this passage and wants to ascribe God more holiness than what was initially written. And so they write out another 6 times. Now, maybe, just maybe, as was pointed out by someone in the comments earlier, maybe this is something that came over from from the liturgical manuscripts, right? Maybe this came over from the lectionary. Maybe in the lectionary we have holy, 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 which is kind of possible. But the issue is when you look at the manuscript tradition in the lectionary, typically the book of Revelation is not something that's often used. It is not usually read in the lectionary. And taking a look at Codex Sinaiticus gives us an indication that the 9 Holies is an ancient textual variant. It goes back to the 300s at least, right? I know it's 8, but very clearly we can make sense of a mistake happening from 9 down to 8, right? He missed 1. It's bound to happen from a scribe somewhere to miss 1 if it's 9. And so, yeah, we do have an ancient rendering or an ancient witness to the 9 Holies, which is kind of wild, actually. Now, I guess it's not entirely surprising, though, because most textual scholars today are pretty much aware that most of the textual variation happened within the first 100 or 200 years of the transmission of the text. So not entirely surprising either. So anyway, let's pop over the comments here. I see a couple of you is going. So Brother Maynard says, "Hey Rod, you know the Sinai Bible was scribed by ancient aliens." It's like, what was watching National Geographic at like 3 a.m? Do you agree? Actually, if you look up Codex Sinaiticus in Wikipedia, it says it's also known as the Sinai Bible. I'd be curious. You can go in and check the logs in Wikipedia to see who put stuff in there. Wonder if Billy Carson maybe went and put that in there. I don't know. I don't know. It's totally possible, but I don't know. But I know I've never heard anyone else refer to it as the Sinai Bible, which is strange. All right. Wikipedia apologetic scholarship. Of course it's true. I'm calling it the Sinai Bible from now on. That's funny. LOL at Timu transcript. Pay the shipping and the handling. Timu will send you 12 Hagios free with the purchase of one. Or maybe with the purchase of 3. How's that? All right. All right. So, excuse me. That's it. That's all that I really have for this textual variant. I more just wanted to bring attention to it just because it's a really neat textual variant. I mean, I'm not changing my mind anytime soon. I think it's pretty clear that the general witness is that 3 holies is how it's supposed to go. So we're not out there looking to add another 6 holies to Revelation 4:8. However, if you want to pray and you want to call God holy 9 times, it's cool. It's cool. So, yeah. So let me give you a quick update. Excuse me, on the Byzantine Text 2025 project. Excuse me. We are sailing along. We are expecting to be done this year. Hopefully, sometime late in the fall or early in the winter. So we will be done by December, I think, for sure. Maybe a little bit earlier than that. So we are looking at having a conference as well, sometime in the fall. Some details are coming out. If you had a chance to listen to me speaking with Dr. Abadan Shah on Clearview today, that was I posted that a little while ago, and we were just having a chit chat about textual criticism, changing the goalposts, and all that kind of stuff. And he did mention briefly about a Byzantine text conference. So that's going to be happening late September, early October. We're still finalizing some dates down there. So if you're in the North Carolina area, we're going to be there. We're going to be there talking about Byzantine text. And as far as I know, there's going to be some other people there who are fairly popular in the field. And it'll be good to go and shake hands with some of the individuals and see them face to face. So it's exciting times, and so, yeah. With the project, it looks like we might be dropping the commentary just because it's a lot of work. And I think for us to keep the commentary going, it's going to push us into 2026. We don't want to do that. So we're going to put that aside, but we still have the special apparatus. So how we're going to be doing the 2025 edition is we're going to have the text block, and then, excuse me, right underneath the text block, we're going to have an apparatus where the Byzantine text form compares all of the major printed editions. So the ECN, the Nestle Holland, the SBL, G&T, Tyndale House Greek New Testament, Family 35, Majority Text, all of those, Textus Receptus, Scrivener's, Stephanus's, are going to be compared in the apparatus. And then we picked out about 50, I think it was either 50 or 51 textual variants where we wanted to provide a few more details. And these are probably more of the popular textual variants. So things like 1 Timothy 3:16, God who versus he who, I can't remember some of the, I think Romans 5:1 was, let us have peace versus we have peace. And in a second apparatus, those specific variants, we're going to provide all of the unsealed manuscripts and a number of the minuscule manuscripts that go for that show the what do you call it, the evidence for the readings and such. So you'll be able to do a little bit of more of a deep dive into that. And of course, we're looking to beautify the edition, right? We want it in a beautiful font. We want wide margins because we want to be able to write notes in the margins. We want it Smith sewn, so it's durable. That's the key, because right now the Byzantine 2028 is available, but it is a perfect bound. I hate the term perfect bound. They saw ridges into the spine and then they fill it with glue and then they glue a cover on. And that's how all the pages hold together. It's not very strong and it wears out. And that should never be used for a Bible. So not one that you're going to use all the time. So we're going to have ours sewn so that they're durable and you can use them for a long time. So that's the plan. And then of course, our major goal for this is to finish the project by the church, for the church. So we're not bringing in any profit margins. None of us are being paid to do the work. None of us are receiving funds. We're just whatever it takes to get it printed and sent out. Excuse me, whatever it takes to get it printed and sent it out, that's what we're going to charge. And then if there's any surplus, I'm not sure what we're going to do with any surplus if there happens to be any. Maybe, I don't know, give it to charity or something. I'm not sure entirely yet. We have to discuss that portion. But yeah, so we're going to print off 1,000 copies. And then we need to sell the 1,000 copies because we're not producing any profits. We need to make sure those 1,000 copies sell so nobody gets tagged with a rather large bill either. So I don't think that'll be a problem. We will probably be putting out requests for fundraising shortly. So I'm not sure yet whether we're going to do something like a Kickstarter or whether we're going to have pre-orders or whatever. We're still talking about that. But it is getting to the point where we need to start thinking about where the money is going to come from. So we will be calling on you to make donations or make pre-orders. We're not sure yet exactly what we're going to do, but it's moving along, and we are mostly. I mean, there's a chance it could push into 2026. But it's looking like we will be done with the project this year and be able to offer it. So that's just a quick heads up. Stephen will be sending some stuff out as well. Stephen Hackett from Biblical Studies and Reviews. So keep that in mind. Mr. Moreno, how's it going? Be ye perfect bound? No. There's no perfect binding. Perfect binding is slop. It is slop. I used to work at a print shop, and we used to perfect bind books. We ran insurance books, really thick contract books for group insurance. And we perfect bound them because it was cheap and easy. But perfect binding is junk. Not only is it junk, the machines are junk. They jam up all the time. And then the glue gets everywhere. And then you're like scraping glue. I'm bitter toward perfect binding. I'm bitter toward it. All right. Where will it be sold? That's a good question. Not sure yet whether it may be available somewhere like Amazon, or whether we'll just have it on a separate, like its own website, like what do you call it? Independent publishing. We'll see. Those are the details that are still yet being ironed out, but that stuff should get sorted out relatively shortly. So it's moving along. By the way, how's it going, Helga? Haven't seen you say hello yet. So glad y'all made it. So I think we're pretty much done here. I wanted to do this tomorrow, but we are actually going to be away tomorrow. So that's why it's Tuesday and I'm doing the live stream today. By the way, Ross, sorry, I missed your $5 there. Thank you so much for the $5. That helps pay for the bills that I incur having all this live streaming stuff here. So really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Excuse me. Yeah, so not going to be here tomorrow. We'll have another live stream again next week. Not sure just yet what the topic is going to be. But the Majority Standard Bible, let me come back here. There it is. The Majority Standard Bible. Excuse me. Yeah, so the Majority Standard Bible is now considered. Let's go to John. Let's do John. Why not? Let's do 1 Timothy 3:16. 1 Timothy 3:16. There you go. By common confession, the mystery of godliness is great. God appeared in the flesh, was vindicated by the Spirit, seen by angels. Yeah, so the Majority Standard Bible, which has been worked on for the last couple of years now, it's actually been quite a bit of time. John Isett made a post on there saying that it's now in its stable form, and they are very likely going to have this in a print edition. So hopefully sooner than later, I will have a print edition to look at, and we can look at this together as one of the few majority text Bibles that will be available in print. Now, again, I like the work of excuse me, of Adam Boyd in his translation of the critical Greek New Testament, and the work of the World English Bible. By Michael, I can't remember his last name. I cannot pronounce it. It starts with a K and it's really long. I think he lives in Hawaii. And so their works are good. But it's better to have a Bible translation that is done by a committee or by multiple people. And the Majority Standard Bible is that. It's done. It's almost like like a crowdsource edition. Like it's interesting how this was done, and you get volunteers kind of coming in and looking over things and stuff like that. It's interesting to see how it's more of like a wider work. And I like that, because what it does is it stops any like peculiarities of a single person from getting in there. And there's a certain safety in the counsel of many. Now, I know there's a balance, right? There's a balance, because sometimes a majority is not the greatest thing, right? You got the tyranny of the majority. But I don't think that's the case here with the Majority Standard Bible. And I think we have a really interesting contender for something that could be a mainstream majority text Bible. So he's going to get that out to print, hopefully. And when I get a copy, I'll definitely be sharing that with you. So keep an eye out for that. I am starting to lose my voice. I've been sick for the last like 4 or 5 days. So I'm glad to be able to be finished here. So let's finish up with the comments here, and then we'll end. Excuse me. Brother Maynard asks, can I order one laser scribed on copper sheets? Brother Maynard, if you are willing to pay, we could probably make that happen. Okay, Evanson's doing very good. Awesome. Good to hear. Mr. Moreno says cessationists reportedly believe that the perfect binding was achieved with the completion of the canon. I'm sure they are. Nice. Predestined to fall apart. LOL. Yeah, that's right. It's a vessel of dishonor. Blessed be the glue that binds. Very nice. I don't know if any of you caught the last video I did with John Miles. By the way, John Miles is an awesome guy. He's super motivated in the languages. So go to his channel and follow his stuff. He's got some good things going on. But we recorded, actually, this is like a month ago. It took me like so long to get that up and running. But we did part one. Excuse me. We did part one. And part one was just our experiences learning Greek on our own. And then we did part two. And part two was actually a video talking about cessationism, continuation in cessationism. And we both read B.B. Warfeld's Counterfeit Miracles, his chapter on cessationism. And we just talked about it and discussed it back and forth. Now, from the time that I spoke to him and the time of today, I have come to the decision that this channel, I'm going to reserve it specifically for the text critical discussion, because I think it's important to keep that separate from all of the other stuff, because like I said in my previous video, I don't want to necessarily push anyone away from the textual conversation because of my theological stance. That's not what I want to do here, because whether we're Calvinists or Arminians or cessationists or continuationists, I think it's fair to say we all believe that the Bible is the Word of God, and we all want to know what the original wording is. So under that umbrella, I'm going to keep this channel that way. So the second part of my video with John, I'm going to edit it, and he's actually going to post it on his channel, because that's probably more the direction of his stuff anyway. So when that gets done, I will post a link, and you can go watch me talk about continuation and cessation with John there, and we'll keep this channel reserved specifically for the textual issues. So all right. That's good. Where are we here? Restorationists allegedly believe perfect binding provides the body with greater work than thee. Okay. Putting it back together. Yeah. All right. And I once tried to read a book on continuationism, but decided to end it prematurely around page 90. That's hilarious. All right. Well, brothers and sisters, thank you for joining me on this discussion of the 9 or the 3 holies. I hope you found this live stream helpful. And until next time, brothers and sisters, we'll see you around.